Hi, friends. It's been a while, hasn't it? Yes, I did take a very long hiatus from making content to focus on things that are important in the grand scheme of things, but I did plan on coming back. And recently, I've been hard at work creating a lot of different scripts, shooting content, and a lot of editing to come back with another series of videos to do this full time because I missed it so much and I missed all of you so much. But last week, something terrible happened. 7 days ago, Charlie Kirk was murdered at a university in Utah doing what he does best, creating an event to bring people together to talk to him, whether they agree or disagree. And somebody sniped him. He was killed on camera, and he was killed in front of his wife and two kids. Now, the way this screwed up world works, we look on our phones constantly, and every single day seems to be some type of tragedy. And within days, a new tragedy happens, and we forget about the last tragedy, and we move on. But what happened with Charlie, it's not going away, because it's a lot bigger than a lot of people thought it would be. So who was Charlie Kirk? Well, Charlie Kirk was the founder of Turning Point USA, which was a youth conservative movement that was created years ago. I think around 2016, but I'm not sure. And if you ask, unfortunately, a lot of people, based on recent developments all across social media, he was a horrible human being, he was homophobic, he was transphobic, and he got what he deserved. But the reality is, all Charlie was a guy that would go to college campuses and talk to people. He wanted to debate people who disagreed with him so that they could give each other some insights onto why they believe what they believe. And as he would famously say, try to get people to attempt to change his mind, and maybe he would possibly change their minds. And when it comes to politics and people who are, for lack of a better word, inflammatory in the things that they preach, Charlie was not one of them. He was very lukewarm. He was milquetoast, as we would say. He was just an old school conservative Christian. The fact that he would willingly go to college campuses and talk with people, and as he famously said himself, the reason he does it is because when you stop talking, that's when violence happens. When you stop communicating with people you view as your opponents, that's when shit gets real. And full disclosure, I wasn't even really a big fan of Charlie. Not because I disagreed with him, but because I thought he was boring. He was like the old waspy conservative uncle that you meet every year at Thanksgiving, who low-key tries to shame you because you smoke pot and have premarital sex. And other than that, he was truly a good dude. And the only negative thing I had to say about him was that he had a creepy-ass smile. I mean, look at that shit. It's the stuff nightmares are made out of. And that's what's so upsetting and shocking about this whole situation and why it's not going away, is because there are a lot of people, when it comes to politics, on both sides, who say a lot of shit to rile people up. There are people out there who make a habit of poking the bear, so to speak. And if the bear ate them, we would say it was wrong. We would say it was terrible. And we would condemn it wholeheartedly, as we should. However, we would all low-key say they were kind of asking for it. If this happened to someone like Nick Fuentes, or Andrew Tate, or Gavin McInnes, or Milo Yiannopoulos, even though he's pretty much retired and hasn't done his shtick in years, but I do hear things, we would get it. We would all unanimously agree it was wrong and shouldn't have happened, but we would get it. And that's why the situation with Charlie is so horrible, because he was not one of them. He was just the average dude who would want to sit down and not condemn you and not bash you and not wish hatred and violence on you, but would want to talk to you and try to find equal ground. And he was murdered for it. And the worst part about this whole situation is the amount of soulless pieces of shit whose mother should have swallowed them, who not only are happy about this, but are gleefully spreading their happiness all across social media, defacing memorials and murals that are created to remember Charlie, and even showing up to candlelight vigils and harassing people like the goddamn Westboro Baptist Church. And to those people, I just want to say real quick, if your whole ideology is on the false premise that you are the good guys and people like Charlie and people who like Charlie and are mourning his loss are evil, maybe don't act like the Westboro Baptist Church. Maybe don't act like you don't have a soul. Maybe don't show the rest of the world who you truly are. And full disclosure, I'm going to be attending a vigil for Charlie later tonight in the city that I live in. And I would be lying if I said a part of me did not wish a motherfucker would. Now I know what you're thinking. Ricky, that is super hypocritical of you, trying to condemn political violence while at the same time encouraging it. True, but we can all agree there is a big goddamn difference between knocking someone the fuck out for being a heartless asshole and murdering them in front of their family because you disagree with them. And on that note, I would never encourage anyone to do anything horrible, especially nothing remotely close to as horrible as what happened to Charlie. But the one message I would say to anyone, no matter how much flack I get or how controversial it might appear, is that most people who are somewhat right-leaning, and this being a masculinity and men's self-improvement channel, most of you are somewhat right-leaning. We tolerate a lot. We are nice. We brush off the little things. But given the fact that people are willing to kill you and will celebrate killing you, maybe it's time to stop being nice. And I'm not encouraging going out and doing anything horrible, especially in Charlie's name, because we all know that is the one thing he would never want. And it would be a goddamn bastardization of everything he stood for if you were to. But just stop being nice. Thanksgiving and Christmas are right around the corner. And a lot of you out there probably have several people in your families who are happy and jubilated with what happened to Charlie. And this might be a good opportunity to tell them, don't come to my house on Thanksgiving. Don't come to my house on Christmas. If you wish that kind of thing on people like him and people like me by proxy, you're not welcome in my home. If you're in a group of friends who all are happy about this and you're afraid to speak up because you don't want to be judged by your friends, the people you care about, why are you friends with people who would literally be happy and dance on your grave if you were murdered? Now, I know that might be a bit extreme, and I know that people say you shouldn't break up families over differences, but there's a difference between disagreeing and a difference between wanting you dead. Because as far as I'm concerned, if you are one of these people who are happy and celebrating and joyous over what happened, and you're desecrating memorials, and you're showing up to candlelight vigils, spreading hatred and mocking and laughing, and haha, he's dead, or people who have contacted his widow and are laughing at his children saying, haha, your dad's dead, you have officially forfeited your humanity, in my opinion. I am not joking, and I am not exaggerating when I say that you are subhuman to me. And if you're one of the people who agrees with what happened to Charlie, and you think it's funny, and you think it's okay to mock his widow and his children, and you think that I'm an asshole and a horrible person for what I just said, to quote a famous scientist, your boos mean nothing to me. I've seen what makes you cheer. And seeing as how Charlie was such a proponent of free speech, and this is a free speech issue, there's a lot of these assholes over on the left who are finding out the hard way that their employers care more about liability than ideology, and they're losing not just their jobs, but their careers. And some of them are losing everything over this. And they think it's not fair and hypocritical that the whole problem started because of free speech and they're being terminated because of exercising their free speech. There is a difference between free speech and showing the world that you are a liability. Doctors are being fired because they're happy that he was murdered. If you were a doctor and you lose everything and you don't know why and you think it's unfair, put yourself in the shoes of someone who has the same beliefs as Charlie, who needs a life-saving surgery, and you were the person who was going to perform their surgery. And ask yourself again, did the hospital make the right decision getting rid of you? And if you're someone on the right side of the fence who would feel the exact same type of jubilation and despicable happiness and joy and public mockery of someone more left-leaning who would pass away, and you are enraged by the reactions you're seeing of the leftists who are celebrating Kirk's death and mocking everyone, I want you to take a very hard look at them. I want you to watch every video you can. I want your blood to boil. I want you to feel sad. I want you to feel angry. And I want you to think about how you would act if someone who you disliked, someone like Destiny or Hassan Piker, were to be publicly killed in front of their loved ones for the things that they say. And I want you to think about how you would react. Because I know there's a lot of people on the right, because I've met a few of you. I've met a lot of you who would react the same way the leftists are. And I really want you to take the whole situation and put it into perspective. And I want you to really do some soul searching of the kind of person you truly are. So we find ourselves at a crossroads, gentlemen, and the one or two women who watch my content. We are angry. We are sad. Our emotions are running wild, which is why I've waited an entire week to make this video, to give time for heads to cool and for facts to come out, because human beings are emotional animals. And if it's one thing we've learned through some of the greatest men in human history, from Marcus Aurelius to Abraham Lincoln, pick a guy, you need to overcome your emotion, and you need to wait for your head to cool down before you make decisions. I'm sure you've heard the jokes and the irony that Kirk's organization was called Turning Point, and we're at the turning point in America, but we really are. We're at a crossroads. Charlie Kirk can either become two things. He can either become our generation's Martin Luther King Jr., or he can become our generation's Franz Ferdinand. And whatever direction we all as a society and as a people go in matters on how we respond and how we move forward from this tragedy. How do we move forward without simply turning the other cheek and continue to have things like this happen to us? How can we move forward without making the situation worse? These are the serious questions we need to ask ourselves, because I don't know if you've been paying attention to the entire planet right now. This has woken up all of us. There are a lot of people that didn't have an opinion one way or another, and now they're starting to see the world as it truly is. And we need to use this momentum and this tragedy to move forward in a positive way. But it's going to require a lot of thinking. We all need to take a step back, and we all need to have a big think. And just as Charlie always encouraged and always wanted, we need to talk it out. Not just with right-wingers and left-wingers, but amongst ourselves, we need to talk and figure out, how do we fix this? How do we get our souls back? How do we fight back without stooping to their level? How do we fight back without forfeiting our own humanity? So my final message in this video to any of the young men out there who are hurt, who are enraged, who want to fight back, want to do something about this horrible situation, but don't know what to do. You don't want to have violence in the streets, because that's not what Charlie preached, and we know it's morally wrong. You don't want to turn the other cheek and admit defeat and keep allowing shit like this to continue. But you got to do something, and you want to do something. I do have good news for you. There is something you can do. Seeing as how I am such a big proponent of self-improvement and masculinity, you can do something by being the man Charlie would have encouraged you to be. Care about your family, be strong with your faith, and do not be afraid to be open about it. And that is all I have to say. The good, the bad, and the ugly, whether you agree with it or not. Have a good night, my friends, my brothers, gentlemen, and whoever is watching this. And to the people out there who are lost on both sides of the spectrum, maybe this will finally be the turning point, pun intended, to where we can start to get along and pay attention to what really matters in life. And on that note, I'd like to raise a glass to Charlie. Rest in peace. We hardly knew you. Take it easy, guys. Be good.